Good morning. Trust Life. Welcome. Trust Life with Louise Hay. We've got a thunderstorm starting here, so it might get joyfully noisy. So Louise says, so many of these things when I first started reading Louise Hay, and I remember reading some of Louise Hay's work back when I was a young adult, a teenager, late teenager and young adult. I got an itchy lip. And just feeling joyful about the affirmations that she gave. I never fully read the book, You Can Heal Your Life, when I was a teenager, but now that I've studied her work and become certified in her practices, both her life coaching and her workshop practice, and have dove deeply into You Can Heal Your Life, this part resonates with me even more now. I used to think that that was a bit crazy. It is only a thought, and a thought can be changed. I used to think that my thoughts came unbidden and that I had no control over them. And you might think that as well. And as I've learned to practice both the Qigong and prayer and marathon running actually was very, very helpful to me. It was a huge schoolroom, a classroom that taught me that I can school and I can bring in what I want. I can bring in the ideas, I can bring in the actions, and I can take action on those ideas, and that I can choose. When I was training for marathons, and I never know when I start these things where my conversation is going to go, and it's often a conversation with myself that you just get to eavesdrop in. But when I was training for marathons, you have to look at the end goal, what's in sight. And a marathon is 26.2 miles, 42.2 kilometers. And so you can't just, well, you can, I guess, if you're young and fit and crazy, just decide one weekend, I'm going to go run a marathon and go run the marathon next weekend. There's a preparation time. And that preparation time starts in little tiny increments. First, you're running a mile or 2 miles 2 or 3 times a week, and once a week. You're running 5 days a week, but there's usually 1 or 2 days of break between. You can break in the middle and then break on the weekend as well. So there's 3 shorter runs and 2 longer runs. And the long run becomes a little bit more incremental. Each one of those things starts to increase. So at the very beginning of your training, you might be 3 days a week running 2 or 3 or 4 miles, 1 day a week running 4 miles, and then 1 day a week running maybe 5 or 6 miles. And then as you increase down your training line, those longer runs become longer. There are usually at least 2 days when the runs are fairly short, even when you're up really training hard and training deeply and training long. Those shorter runs are usually only about 3 to 5 miles. So you're not running hard long every day. So it is a wave. It's a process. And you gotta want the goal at the other end because it's not easy. But it's a conditioning. It's a mental conditioning. I went on to run, I thought I would run 1 marathon in my life and check that off my bucket list. I ended up running at least 25 marathons or beyond. And I chose not to run on Sundays anymore, and that's when the marathons are all being run, and I lived in Alberta. So I looked at race schedules going, okay, I want to run on Saturdays anymore because for my spiritual practice, I just chose not to run on Sundays. It was my day of rest, my Sabbath. And so I looked at race schedules and what's run on Saturdays? Ultra marathons. So I went further. And the longest race that I ever completed was a 100-mile race. So I ran for 100, well, I moved forward, for 100 miles continuously. And that race and completing that race informed my whole life from there on in. It informs everything I do now. And really helps me understand that it is only a thought, and a thought can be changed. Because when we're in the middle of extremity, and a 100-mile race, you're choosing to put yourself into extremity. When we're in the middle of extremity, the thoughts come. And we go, oh, I want to think this. I've got to put that one away. Oh, I want to think this. Oh, I need to release that thought and bring in the thought that I want. 1 foot after the other. I will make no decisions in the dark of night. I won't make a decision because I did quit that 100-mile race twice, the 2 years prior. I understand why I quit it. It was important that I quit it in those times. Those were learning classrooms as well. Those DNFs did not finish. They're very important. And then I chose to race and run that race for myself. It was a very, very important and empowering process to make that choice in my mind and continually through that race continue to make choices. I had to reach out to other people for help through that process. I had to reach out to the universe for help. I had to reach down into the earth for help. I had to reach out all around me for help to traverse that time. And I had to very, very carefully school my thoughts. It is only a thought, and a thought can be changed. All the events that you have experienced in your lifetime up to this moment have been created by your thoughts and beliefs you have held in the past. They were created by the thoughts and words you used yesterday, last week, last month, last year, 10, 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50, or more years ago, depending on how old you are. However, that is your past. It is over and done with. What is important in this moment is what you are choosing to think and believe and say right now. For these thoughts and words will create your future. Your point of power is in the present moment. My point of power is in the present moment. And is forming the experience of tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, and on into eternity. You might notice what thought you were thinking at this moment. Is it negative or positive? I'm going to change those words. Is it contracting or expanding? Do you want this thought to be creating your future? Just notice and be aware. And then we can choose. So how do we choose? How do we process thoughts that are contracting? Haha, EFT. EFT, Qigong, bouncing, movement, processing, receiving. Number one, it's receiving. What is the thought? When we feel the vibration of something that we don't understand and we go, I can't do that, I can't feel that, we lose a whole lot of value in going, I am receiving this right now. A dear friend of mine with whom I studied my Louise workshop training, she's from Arizona. And we did our training 2 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago now. And she just was in this wonderful marriage with this man who they just adore each other. And they traveled the world, and we'd always see her posts. And then 2 months ago, we discovered that he'd passed away from cancer. And today she posted, and she's always been very positive, and she'd been posting on her wall, positive things, positive things, positive things. Today, she posted a picture, a selfie of her grief-stricken face. And just shared in her heart what she was feeling in this moment, just how hard this was to continue to take one more breath without John. And she shared that with us. And it gave us the opportunity to share our hearts with her as well. So when we want to think about positive thoughts and negative thoughts, we put them in categories where we want this and we don't want that. And so I'd like to change that idea of positive and negative to contracting and expanding, and receiving and releasing. And as my dear friend received the grief, and continually, day by day and breath by breath, receives the grief of this loss, this separation, and taps into her faith that the universe is friendly, that it does have her best interest in mind, and that this separation right now is not the end of everything for them. But right now it's just very hard. And as we step into the things that are hard and receive them, when we receive them, they travel through us. I see my hollow bone here. They come through us, they teach us, they leave their wisdom, and the pain eventually dissipates. But it doesn't dissipate if we say, I can't feel that, I won't feel that. We feel it in bits. And then we release and say, that's enough for now. And then we come back and feel it again. That's enough for now. A dear friend's, a family member actually, has passed away prematurely this week in our home, in our extended family. And as we feel the grief of that premature passing, it comes in waves. Receive and release, receive and release. Receive, keep the love, keep the kindness, keep the gratitude, keep the compassion. Release the extra stuff, keep the wisdom. Keep the knowledge that reaches out to other people, that compassion, that empathy that says, I get what you're feeling. Maybe not completely, fully, exactly as you are feeling it, and I don't need to. But I feel your feelings. You feel mine, I feel yours. And there is connection. That's what we all want in this world. That's what we're here for, is connection with each other. As we connect, we create strength. That strength of unconditional love. We connect it, we create it, we embody it, we feel it, we own it. It comes from the unconditional love of the universe, God, divine, spirit, whatever label you would like to use, your inner knowing. Feel that connection. Feel the joy in that connection, even in grief. I love you. Namaste.